Everything is so grungy, and then it's just pink. Because I want to use it, but I just never want to use it. A newer, shinier deck. Falling everywhere. Hello everybody, it's Sylvie. Welcome or welcome back to Tarot Magpie. I hope you're doing all kinds of good. I am bringing you the follow-up to my VR2, the decks I can't pick up tag with the decks. No, jumping the gun. Decks I can't put down, and this is the decks I can't pick up. Hashtag. Both were created by Sylvia at Fairlight Tarot, and I've also seen them on Cassandra's channel, A Riffle in Time. I will link both of them and their videos below. The clue is in the title. I've got 5 decks that I just can't seem to pick up. For some reason, I reach for something else or there's something stopping me grabbing them to use in a reading. So I will get more or less straight into it. And by that, I mean I will get straight into it. We've got all tarot decks here today. Hopefully this will be a quick one, but not if I keep rambling. So, deck 1, the Eldritch Overload. I can't pick it up. I don't know well, I do know what it is actually, that's a lie. But this is a beautiful deck. I love it. It's so much fun. It's shiny, it's colourful, it comes with this gorgeous big guidebook. It's holographic, which is going crazy under the lights. But it's in this cyberpunk, fantasy, sci-fi world. I love the setting. Like I said, I love the guidebook that it comes with. It's kind of fantasy trope, D&D inspired also. There's a D&D compatible module that comes with the big guidebook that you can buy. It's so cool. I did an unboxing when my copy came in last year. I love it. There's almost nothing I don't love about this deck. I just don't pick it up. And the reason is, I think a fairly recent reason, is because if I think about grabbing this, then I grab Zeke's Arcana instead, which is a newer, shinier deck. Well, not necessarily shinier, although it does have, it's still holographic and it's got these shiny pink edges. But this is a newer deck in my collection. The vibes, I'm like, if I want a colourful kind of fantasy, kind of alien, kind of sci-fi, kind of weird and wonderful, if that's what I'm after, then I've been going for the Zeke's because it's newer in my collection. So it's got that like new shiny thing, flavor of the month going on. And this is just the problem of having a lot of decks, and it's a problem in inverted commas. Like it's not really a problem, but it does mean that, you know, you can only use so many decks at one time. And so recently, if this is the mood I've been in, Zeke's is the one I've been grabbing and not the Eldritch Overload. Because, yeah, the colour palettes really are quite similar. There's that bright turquoise blue, and like if you look at the back, it's the pinky purples. They're both totally beautiful. They're both totally their own thing. This one comes with the equivalent of a little white book, whereas the Eldritch Overload has like a bigger guidebook with more information. So in that sense, the Eldritch Overload is a little bit more of a satisfying in-depth reading experience, whereas if I just want to kind of grab and go, and this is a little bit more pippish as well, this is a little bit more straightforward. So they do have their differences, but if this is the vibe I'm after, I've just not been reaching for the Eldritch recently, but that I think needs to change. But everything will have its time. Like the Eldritch Overload is certainly not going anywhere. The new shiny feeling will wear off the Zeke's eventually, and it will just become part of the collection. But yeah, so that is the first one on my list. Okay, deck number 2 on this list is the Autonomic Tarot, which I also have an unboxing on the channel. This deck is so cool. I love the backs. Come on. It's so cool. It's got this woodcut, kind of punky vibe to it. Totally just lost my train of thought looking at the cards. It's so cool, but it's so big. And the cardstock is not great, which kind of puts me off. And even though I was just mentioning that the Zeke's is kind of pippish and that makes it easy to read, this is straight up pips, which isn't where I feel the most comfortable. I'm still learning the Marseille. I'm learning to read playing cards. Like I'm not comfy and fluent in reading pips. So it's not my go-to, and I always just end up reaching for something else instead of this because there's just like one too many reasons not to read with it. That it's just enough of like a barrier to me actually using it, which is a shame because it's so cool. But yeah, like it's just a little bit too tall. I can, but it's not comfy, and I end up doing that a lot. And it's too tall to riffle shuffle, and the cardstock isn't good, so I wouldn't really want to riffle shuffle it too much anyway because I think it would absolutely like bend. like there it stays bent just from that. It's a bit of a tricky one, and I'm not really sure how to remedy the situation, you know? Whereas with the Eldritch Overload, I'm like, well, eventually the new shiny feeling will wear off the Zeke's Arcana, and I will start wanting to reach for the Eldritch Overload again. Whereas this one, I'm like, the cardstock's never going to get any better. I will get better at reading Marseille and reading, although it's not Marseille arrangements of pips. But I suppose once I get my head around the numerology a bit more, this might be easier to read with. So I might be able to pull it out as like a practice deck for reading numerologically. Anyway, that's the Autonomic Tarot. I don't think I could riffle it if I tried. Okay, if I really try, but it's not really worth it. Okay, while we're complaining about cardstock, let's complain about cardstock. So this is the Crow Tarot, the full-size mass market version by US Games. And the reason I'm complaining about cardstock is because the US Games standard tarot size is just a little bit too big for me. It's slightly too big to be comfortable. It's kind of hard to shuffle because it's very firm. It's snappy and nice, but and I have so many other MJ color name decks that I end up reaching for one of those over this. And to be quite honest, I'm kind of not using this out of spite of it not being the mini, which is totally unfair because I don't think I knew the mini was coming out before I bought this. And I bought this on purpose. So it is not this deck's fault that it is this size. But I just think every time I think about using it, I'm like, oh, I wish I had the mini size instead. I wish I had the mini to like take out and about with me. I just wish I had the mini. So I think I just need to suck it up and buy another copy of this deck in the smaller size and then maybe sell this one. I don't know, because I don't want to trim it because I like having the borders. I like how they're all like different colors and it's got this cool aged look to it. Out of spite against my past self for not buying the small version of this deck or not waiting to get the small version of this deck, I don't use this one, which is kind of silly. Let's be real. So I think maybe I add the mini version of this deck to my wish list. So that is the Crow Tarot. This is the Deviant Moon Borderless edition. This is also by US Games, but is a sensible size. It is not uncomfy. It's still a little bit tall, but anyway, this is the Deviant Moon. I had a real moment with this when I first brought it into my collection. I like looking at it. It's a deck I flick through a lot. I don't bloody read with it. And I don't know why. I just don't seem to want to pick it up ever. I'm not sure what that's about because I want to use it, but I just never want to use it. I think it's maybe a case of this is very popular, like on TarotTube, on social media. It's a very popular deck. And I think it's a case of I've seen too many other opinions about it. Oh, I love this for. I've seen too many other opinions about it. I've seen too many people talking about it. It's put a pressure on this deck to perform, you know? It's like kind of an expectation versus reality, so I end up not picking it up because it carries the weight of what everyone has said about it and said how good it is. And so I feel like any reading I do has got to live up to that, which is, again, it's not fair on the deck, like I'm hurting its feelings. It's not fair on the deck. It's not helpful to me in my practice to have that like weight of expectation on my readings. Like it's doing it a disservice. I really do just love these images though. I think it's so cool. And I love how grungy yet colourful it is. I think I maybe need to reacquaint myself with this deck. Maybe like pretend we're meeting for the first time. Do like a deck interview, which I don't do as habit with every deck that I bring in, but I think maybe as a bit of a reset, maybe I do a deck interview. And then maybe that will, instead of just having everybody else's opinions of this deck clouding around it, it will put my opinion of this deck front and center. So that is the Deviant Moon. And then finally, the Influence of the Angels Tarot. And this is another giant US Games cardstock. And this one is shiny. So like it's got that against it. But that's not the reason I don't pick this up. I so want to fall in love with this deck because I like the digital collage of existing artwork, and it's kind of a curated art deck, but it's almost more playful than that in a way because it's been digitally manipulated. I love the style. I love reading with this kind of artwork. I've got a few decks that do that, but I think that's the issue. I really want to fall in love with this, but I have been rekindling my love for the Golden Tarot by Cat Black, which is different vibes and I think different periods of, you know, art history periods, but because it's a similar style, I've just been reaching for that one instead of this one. And I think maybe that's the issue, is that similar to the Eldritch Zeeks, is that they kind of aesthetically take up a very similar place and so I've been reaching for one over the other. But I think this is really cool, and like the guidebook's really cool as well, and I want to like read it to read with the guidebook. It's got like the symbols that they've chosen to keep or include and like what that represents, which is just really cool. It's what I like to see in a guidebook. I like to see discussion of the exact specific artwork that has been created or chosen and how that relates to the card meaning. So I want to work with it. I think this Ace of Cups is so cute. Maybe I'll just make myself read with it. And I think because I don't think I've ever read with this a whole ton. This is one that I've just kind of picked up sporadically here and there for a reading. And so it's not really, maybe similar to the Deviant Moon. Although I did have like a chunk of time with the Deviant Moon. But I don't know, I feel like I don't really know this deck very well maybe. So maybe I just need to work with it exclusively for a time. This also makes me think that maybe I don't need, well I don't need, but maybe I don't need the Touchstone Tarot by Cat Black, because it's the same, different art period again. I think the Touchstone Tarot is Renaissance and Baroque artwork, but it's, you know, it's a similar thing. It's digitally collaged, curated art. But I love Cat Black's other deck. I love the Golden Tarot, so I want the Touchstone. And, you know, maybe the vibes will be different. I don't know. But anyway, that is the Influence of the Angels, which is the 5th and final deck on this list of decks that I can't pick up. So that's that. That has successfully been another sub 20 minutes of footage video, so hopefully this will be a really quick one. And that's it. These are the decks that I can't seem to bring myself to pick up. I hope you've enjoyed. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of these decks. Tell me what the decks that you can't get yourself to pick up are. Thank you for spending some time with me. Give me a like if you liked it and subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next one. Bye bye.